Hello, welcome to the video. Today we are going to talk about just another of the many absurd things that the Victorians did. Fainting. The unmitigated gall of these Victorians.
The impudence! The audacity! The unmitigated gall!
I tell you, fainting so often that you need a room in which to faint. For shame. Really what angers me is not the fact that they fainted, although that's irritating too. What really grates my cheese is one of the popular explanations for why they fainted. Some of them are legitimate explanations. Some of them, one of them, is not. I'm really just nitpicking at this point. We're gonna get into the video now. Arsenic. Arsenic, arsenic, arsenic. This one I can agree to an extent. I don't believe it was the most prominent cause of fainting, but it's not a bad argument. I'm sure you know that the Victorians used arsenic in everything. I mean, why not? If I have to risk death to get some green wallpaper, bitch, I'm doing it. It started with the color green. In essence, this green wallpaper was created with arsenic and everyone wanted it, which is not very cash money because arsenic is a poison. These people literally ate arsenic as a snack. You think I'm exaggerating? I'm not. The Victorians had little arsenic wafers to munch on for the purpose of appearing paler, which was fashionable. It did this by killing your red blood cells. I can't make this stuff up. They still had a decent amount of lead and arsenic in their makeup, even though they knew it was poisonous. At this point, humans have known lead's poisonous for, I don't know, since ancient times. I digress. What I'm trying to say is, this definitely could have been a factor as to why some women fainted so easily. It does not seem like the main factor. Not all women wore makeup, which was actually very strongly discouraged in Victorian society. If you did wear makeup, you wanted to make it look like you weren't wearing makeup, lest you get 360 no-scoped by Queen Victoria. That'd be so funny. Back to my point, not everyone had these bright arsenic-laced wallpapers. While it's a compelling reason for the fainting of Victorian women, it just doesn't quite answer why it was so common for Victorian women to faint. The next explanation for Victorian fainting is heavy or large amounts of clothing. This argument I can get on board with a little bit more. It doesn't feel like the main explanation to me, but the argument is that Victorian women often wore heavy or stifling clothing, and because of that they fainted. Okay, Georgian women wore a lot of clothing. Tudor women wore a lot of clothing. England is not an especially hot place. I'm not saying that on a particularly hot day, a woman, dressed heavily did not faint. I'm simply saying that that might not explain why Victorians fainted when it wasn't hot in the dead of winter. It doesn't really account for emotional fainting, which is more what I'm looking at. I do appreciate the argument. I can agree with it in some cases. I just don't think you can use it to rationalize the majority of Victorian women's fainting spells. The next argument is the corset argument. I'm frankly a little tired of hearing. One does not simply explain the majority of Victorian women's fainting by blaming it on corsets. This is comparative to saying that modern day waist trainers are making women faint. That's not true. There's a perfectly healthy way to use a waist trainer like this. It fits snugly onto the person's body. It is not cinched too tightly. It is just sitting there supporting. There are a minority of people who use waist trainers like this. These are the people you could say, I might understand if they fainted from this. It looks pretty not healthy. This was the exact same thing that happened to Victorian women. There were people who wore corsets in the correct, healthy way, laced just tightly enough to hug the waist and give support, and there were people who felt the need to be excessive and overdid it. These people were called tight lacers. I have no problem believing that tight lacers fainted because of their corsets, but to simply say that corsets caused women to faint as a generalized statement that corsets on the whole were overbearably tight is extremely misleading. The majority of women used corsets correctly. Victorian society and even doctors look down upon tight lacers, just like how doctors today advise against using waist trainers to alter your bone structure. These tight lacers were not the rule, they were the exception. I'm done hearing that corsets caused Victorian women to faint. It feels like that's the popular answer. Case closed, it was the corsets. When that's not true, the topic needs to be reopened and examined closer. Now that I'm done ranting, let's get to my favorite explanation. Female delicacy. I know this might not be super well received, but it is my belief that out of all these reasons, the most common one for Victorian fainting was female delicacy. Females in the Victorian era were expected to be delicate. If you did not faint, when I told you that I saw a knife fight this morning and I saw a man die on the street, I'm suspicious. Your female sensibilities are supposed to be shocked by this. You've been sheltered, you're at home, kept away from anything shocking. So if I tell you something shocking and you don't faint, or act surprised or disgusted, I'm on your scent now. Are you really a delicate lady? Have you seen things you're not supposed to? Only a man who is worldly and courageously gone out into the world and seen these shocking things is unfazed by any of this. He wouldn't faint. But as a woman, you have not seen these things. You don't know about the world. You should be fainting. You should be showing your femininity. Plus, Victorian men don't like women who act like guys. Who wasn't shocked when she heard something shocking. Plus, he could catch her when she fainted and he could be a hero. Women fainted because society expected them to. I'm not saying that other factors didn't contribute in some cases. I'm just saying that female delicacy was the main reason for most Victorian women fainting. When Hollywood picked up, we still saw women fainting there. We didn't see them fainting because of arsenic. We didn't see them fainting because of heavy clothes or corsets. A lot of the fainting that we saw on the big screen was because of femininity. It was a symbol of femininity and continued to be shown as such on the big screen. In real life, this excessive fainting stopped, I want to say roughly around the rise of modern feminism. I don't think it's a coincidence that the rate of fainting lowered when feminism began to rise. I want to peg it at the women's rights movement of the 60s that really started putting the brakes on fainting. You think I'm gonna faint while I'm arguing about women's rights? Sort of defeats the point. You gotta show those men that you're not delicate. You can handle having rights. We don't see as much fainting on the big screen anymore because Hollywood has caught wind of the feminism movement and woman's strong. If a woman faints on the big screen because of delicate sensibilities in a modern movie, it would, I would say it would probably be labeled as sexist. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Leave me a comment if you feel so inclined. I hope you gained something out of this. Suggestions are welcome. That's all I have today. Thank you for watching. Have a good day. Have a good life. Bye.